At the farthest edge of the Atlantic coast, where waves crashed with the power of forgotten tempests, and gulls screamed against the wind, stood an ancient lighthouse. It had no name, or at least none that people remembered. Locals simply called it the Silent Watcher. Its white paint had long since peeled into flakes that swirled away with the salt wind, and its lantern, once a proud symbol of safety, hadn't glowed for almost 50 years. Yet somehow, every night, fishermen swore they could still see a faint light flickering from its tower just before a storm rolled in. No one went near it anymore, except one person, a quiet girl named Marin Everly, who came every evening with a notebook and a small lantern of her own. Marin was the daughter of a sailor who never returned. When she was 12, her father's ship, the Callisto, vanished in a storm near the cliffs beyond the lighthouse. No wreckage was found, only his captain's cap washed ashore days later. For years, Marin's mother told her to forget, but Marin couldn't. At 17, she began walking to the old lighthouse every night, climbing its spiraled stairs even though the wind howled through its hollow walls and the floorboards groaned under her weight. She wasn't afraid. She felt as though the lighthouse was waiting, not to scare her, but to speak. One stormy evening, as thunder echoed across the sky and rain lashed against the shore, Marin reached the top of the tower and lit her lantern. The faint flame danced in the darkness. She sat beside the rusted lamp that once guided ships and whispered softly, "I know you've seen everything, every soul that's come and gone. Tell me what you remember." At first, only the storm answered, but then a low hum, like the sigh of an old man waking from a long sleep, rolled through the tower. Her lantern flickered, and a voice, soft and trembling, like sea foam breaking over stone, spoke from the air itself. "I remember every ship that sought the shore, every heart that waited for a light that never came." Marin froze. "Who are you?" "Once I was the light keeper," the voice said, "but time forgot my name, just as it forgot the lives I watched over." Marin's heart pounded. "What happened to you?" "I kept the flame through storms that tore at the heavens, until one night the sea called me home. Since then I've watched, not with eyes, but with memory." She looked through the cracked glass toward the waves below. There, amid the foam, she thought she saw shapes moving, men with ropes, women holding lanterns, children pointing toward the horizon. Ghosts, perhaps, or memories still clinging to the world they once knew. The next morning, Marin brought her notebook. If the lighthouse held stories, she would write them down, every one. For weeks she returned. Each time the spirit told her a new story, some joyful, some tragic. There was the story of a fisherman named Elias who sailed into a storm to save a rival's son. He never came back, but the boy lived to build ships in his name. There was the tale of a bride who waited on the cliffs every night for her husband's ship, until her hair turned silver and her voice became part of the wind that howled across the rocks. And there was the story of the keeper himself, a man named Rowan Hale. He had been the last guardian of the light. He kept it burning faithfully until the night his own family's boat went missing in the storm. He refused to abandon his post to search for them, fearing that if he left, others would perish in the dark. When morning came, his light had guided dozens of sailors safely home, but not his wife nor his son. Their ship had sunk. Grief consumed him. He climbed the tower one final time, lit the lamp for the last time, and whispered a prayer into the flame, before vanishing into the sea. His body was never found. "The sea took my name," Rowan told her, "but it left my stories behind." Marin's tears fell onto her notebook. She realized something. The stories weren't just history. They were lives waiting to be remembered, and she was the only one still listening. One evening, as autumn wrapped the coast in fog, the spirit spoke again. "Marin, the sea stirs with a voice that is not mine." She looked out and saw lights, small, golden, and distant, swaying across the horizon. "They're coming," Rowan whispered, "the ones who never found their way home." Marin ran down the spiral stairs, heart pounding, and stood at the shore. The waves glowed faintly, as if filled with liquid stars. From the mist, shapes began to emerge, dozens of ghostly ships, their sails torn but shining with pale blue light. And among them, a vessel she had seen only in her dreams, the Callisto. She cried out, "Father!" For a heartbeat she saw him, standing on the deck, his coat fluttering, his face calm and proud. He smiled, a small, gentle smile, and raised his hand toward her. Then the ships began to fade back into the mist. Marin's knees gave out, but before the vision vanished completely, Rowan's voice whispered once more, "Every light we kindle lives on, even after the sea swallows the flame. The ones we love never truly vanish. They become the stars that guide us." The mist rose, the sea calmed, and the silent watcher stood still again. Years passed. Tourists began to visit the coast again. They said the lighthouse was haunted, though no one could say by what. Some claimed they saw a young woman sitting by the lamp room, writing under the pale moonlight. No one knew her name, but those who came on stormy nights swore they heard two voices, one young, one old, weaving stories into the wind. And sometimes, if the night was especially clear, the light atop the tower would flicker to life for just a moment. In 2024, a new keeper was assigned to restore the old lighthouse. While clearing the dust from a drawer near the lantern room, he found a leather-bound notebook. Its cover read, The untold stories held by a silent lighthouse. Inside were dozens of pages written in careful, looping handwriting. Every story was signed, "As told by Rowan Hale, written by Marin Everly." The final page carried no story, only a single sentence. Some lights are not meant to shine for the world, only for the hearts still lost at sea. The keeper placed the notebook back on the table and left the lighthouse light burning that night, just as it had once been. From far across the bay, fishermen swore they saw two silhouettes at the top, a man and a young woman, standing side by side, looking out toward the horizon. The sea was calm, the lighthouse was no longer silent, and the stories, whispered to the waves for generations, finally had their ending.